Let's take a look at the injury just so you can see it. He's back to throw, and he gets tackled, gets hit right on the elbow, but then his head does hit the ground. We don't have any footage of him after he's getting up, so we can't tell how stable he is. I mean, one, that certainly hurts taking a helmet right onto your throwing elbow, but they are being much more careful now, right? I mean, we know about the 2 independent spotters. We know that everyone's required to look to see if anyone's getting banged up, when it comes to head injuries. We have the independent neuroconsultant on the sideline that's supposed to evaluate him in the tent and then take him to the locker room if he needs to. 4 no-go things, right? 1, complete loss of consciousness. 2, ataxia now. That's the big change. It was any gross motor instability. Now they're saying any ataxia, which means your coordination is messed up. And then amnesia and confusion. So loss of memory and confusion. Those are the 4 no-goes. Ataxia and gross motor instability are similar. So that was really the big change. I think the NFLPA firing the independent neuroconsultant has changed the way these independent neuroconsultants are evaluating everything. If you look now, anyone that gets banged up at all, they are on the TV looking at the replay, right? They want to see if there's any ataxia or gross motor instability so that they can immediately rule them out. So I think that things have changed dramatically. And 1 is the ataxia, but 2, the firing of the neuroconsultant has made every neuroconsultant, they're all on edge and going the extra mile to make sure that no player has that issue. Keep an eye on his right ankle. Our angle sort of takes his ankle out of it a little bit, but if you watch him, he goes up and then takes a big shot right on the outside of that right ankle. You don't see the degree to which his foot twisted, but if you watch him try to get up, you can tell he does not want to put any weight on it. So the concern was that he had a fracture. Then it turned out he didn't have a fracture, which I think made some people optimistic. The problem is that when you hurt the syndesmosis of the ankle, sometimes you need surgery even if you don't have a fracture. So the syndesmosis is what holds these 2 bones together. It only takes about 1 millimeter or 2 of separation to result in early arthritis and chronic pain in the ankle. So you've got to put these bones back into their anatomic position. You do this with this device called a tightrope, and you drill tunnels all the way through the fibula and the tibia. 2 of them. You have this suture that's really strong. It's called fiber wire. You flip these metal buttons on the side of the tibia, and then you put more metal buttons here, and you tighten them down. So it holds it in perfect anatomic position, which gives it a chance to heal and for a chance for the athlete to recover. Look, I'm expecting 6 weeks of healing, and then he starts rehab. So you're looking at 8 weeks, I think, at the minimum. And do I think they're going to make the playoffs? No. But even if they do, I still am concerned that Kupp won't be able to play.
Obviously, the biggest news in the NFL today regarding Dak Prescott. Let's get the latest with Doc.
After the injury, the best-case scenario was it was a clean dislocation without a fracture and that they were able to reduce the ankle. This looks like a season-ending scenario. Watch the defender roll into that ankle right there, that right ankle. You see the whole leg twist to the outside. You can see how deformed the ankle is. Chris Mortensen and Adam Schefter reporting that he's going in for emergent surgery tonight. The best case still is possible. In other words, they couldn't get it reduced gently in the locker room, and therefore they're going to a hospital so that they can sedate him and reduce the ankle. The worst case scenario would be that he has an open fracture dislocation, which means it's a compound fracture. There's a bone that's out of the skin, and they have to do surgery tonight in order to safely fix the bones, get the ankle back in place, and also reduce the risk of infection. We saw how devastating that can be with Alex Smith. Jets running back Breece Hall left the game with a left knee injury. He's already been ruled out. Let's take a look at the injury itself, and you'll see kind of what happens. He's running to the left, and watch him plant the left foot right there, and then he goes down. In my opinion, I think the injury occurs as he's making the cut, and it's actually off the screen right there. He's already sort of picked up that left leg, and you can see him limping here. He's favoring the left leg, doesn't want to completely straighten it out. Anytime I see a player have a non-contact knee injury, the first thing that comes to mind his ACL. The ACL's right here. Now, I mean, certainly this could be a little meniscus, but we'll get an MRI. But when you see someone making a hard cut, you know, left to right, right to left, depending on the knee, and you see them go down quickly and then have difficulty walking, limping, and are ruled out that quickly, the doctors have a pretty good idea when they examine it. So we should hear something as the game ends, the doctors examine whether or not they felt the ACL was loose, or they may tell us that the ACL is okay, but they're worried about something else. But certainly we're going to have to wait for this MRI to know more.
It's been a busy day for Dr. Mark Adickes. Doc, what'd you see with Jamar?
Yeah, let's take a look at the injury. It happened right before the half. He actually went to the locker room early, but to me it looks like a hamstring strain more than anything. I was hoping it maybe was cramps, but it looked to me like right there you see him sort of pull up. I haven't seen all this film, but you see him go down, and so originally I didn't see him pull up, but I saw him go down. I was hoping maybe it was cramps. But this looks like a hamstring strain. No official word from the Bengals yet. If it is a hamstring strain, I'm hopeful that it's just a grade 1 strain. With those, sometimes they can wrap them up and a player can return. If they've got a healthy lead, though, they may hold him out. Well, let's take a look at his injury. It's a left shoulder injury, and although this looks like it may be a more significant injury to his labrum, right here landing on that left elbow with the defender landing on the back of him, that sort of jams the humeral head, the ball, into the back of the socket and can damage that labrum. What's good news about an injury like this is that once you're over the pain and once you have your strength back, they can put a brace on him and he can play, provided the MRI doesn't show any significant injury to the joint, to the cartilage in the joint that requires them going in and doing a surgery. So I'm hopeful that he won't miss too much time. Let's take a look at the video and you'll see what happened. Right in the act of throwing, he gets his hand grabbed, and you saw his elbow bend really impossibly. He was, you know, obviously grabbing it, and you could tell he was really hurting. You know, he was working his hand as well. The ulnar nerve sits there in addition to that, and so it's not uncommon that you can stretch both the ulnar collateral ligament, which is where people have Tommy John injuries, but you also can get the nerve right there. The ulnar nerve runs around the elbow there as well, which can affect the hand. Now, he stayed in the game, but this is something that can get more sore. A few years ago, Ben Roethlisberger had a similar thing happen, stayed in the game, and then it just kept bothering him more and more. So we'll wait and see what happens with the press conferences if they say anything about it. Hopefully he avoided all injury, and like I said, stayed in the game, chucked it 50 yards, so I expect that he's probably going to be okay, but definitely worth keeping an eye on.
How do you lacerate an organ?
Well,
How does
I mean,
that work?
if you're talking about muscle, so muscle is like steak. I mean, it's pretty darn tough.
That
I mean, you really can't do anything to it. I mean, all that's going to happen is you're going to get a bruise, right? But when you're talking about organ tissue can break. It literally breaks. And so as it rattles around inside, it can break, and then you can get these lacerations that then lead to bleeding and cause problems.
Now, why is it that we've got such a huge range, 2 to 6 weeks for him to come back?
Well, you have to have healing. So what we're waiting for is healing. And even though you can see the laceration, you don't really know how deep it goes. So that's why they follow his urine tests. They'll follow to see how his kidneys are healing. And once it looks like they're healing following those tests, that's when they'll re-CT him and they'll think that he's safe to go back. 6 weeks is conservative, but it may take a little, but 2 weeks is possible. So here at the Fantasy Zone, we have guests every week. We have an amazing staff that gets us a phenomenal chef, all kinds of renowned guests. Tony Danza, 2 Heisman Trophy winners today, but the one guy we really want is Paul Rudd. And we have been looking for him. Steve Burney, our talent bookers, pulled out all the stops. Nothing. Peter Smith, our producer, actually got a hold of Paul Rudd's people. Nothing. We just cannot seem to find this man. And it's not that we want him here for selfish reasons. Yes, he's a huge star. Yes, he's the star of Ant-Man. It's not that. We want the guru to be able to help him with his fantasy team. It's for you, Paul. It really is. So here is the trailer for The Key, Part 2.
Doc, can you give Kay a little room on that couch? I mean,
I'm like half of this table. Happy to have rapper Jadakiss here with his phenomenal Jadakiss. What did I say? Jadakiss. I think I got it right. Anyway, so Jadakiss has his new album out, 6 years in the coming. 2009, last time he had an album. It's the #1 selling rap and R&B album in the country. I talked to him and I said, is the bronze bust a shout out to the NFL Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio? And he said, yeah, something like that. Anyway, so I thought that what we need to do is put together a box set, maybe of the greatest hits of everything that we've done here in the Fantasy Zone. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could put out a cover? Obviously, there would be multiple covers since we have multiple people involved. So if we could, hopefully we'll be able to pull up these phenomenal album covers.
Oh, my goodness.
The initial album cover is of the unseen hero of our show, Jason Smith in L.A.
Oh,
and I think that's messed up, dude, that they put Mini-Me's picture on that. No, I'm kidding, dude. You're awesome. I would watch the show just to listen to you, and I mean that. Anyway, so the next up is, wow, that's ugly. Anyway, so that would be my greatest hits. It would be a very short DVD.